Is it an iPad Air in the blue Wi-Fi 256?
Yes.
So I just got back from work and I ended up getting my iPad Air picked up while I was on my lunch break, and it's about, can't see the time, last time I checked it was 10:30, and this is right here, iPad Air, practically the Pro, 12.9 inch with 256 gigabytes, and let's go ahead and see if I can get this peeled off, and hopefully it sounds nice for the camera. That was pretty lackluster. Let's go ahead and let's just see. Plastic is removed, and let's go ahead and get this removed. A very snug fit there. All right. Straight away, very nice size. I think I'm done with the 12.9 inch, but again, let me test out. You'll get your USB-C charger in the box, as well as the pamphlet and all of the good stuff there. Let's go ahead and get this sorted already. Well, put that in the background there, and let's go ahead and let's get this color revealed. So last year when the iPad Airs came out, the colors were all very muted. This year they're a lot more vibrant, which is going to be pretty nice. Just make sure it's focused in the camera. Now that is a very nice blue. And I already got smudges in there. Screen. Let's take a look at that blue. Very nice. Okay. Let's go ahead and boot up the screen. Alright, so now that we're back at the desk, let's kind of go over my initial impressions of the iPad Air 5. Now, if you saw earlier in the video, I'm coming from the 2018 iPad Pro 12.9 inch, and the reason why I was interested in this device was because in a lot of aspects, it is giving me an upgrade from my iPad Pro, and it has some similarities, but it also does have some differences. Now, I'm going to make a separate video comparing the two devices, and that's going to be coming up pretty soon. So make sure you subscribe to the channel and let me know down in the comments if you have any questions you want me to answer for the comparison of that. And basically everything I'll say in that video will apply to the 11-inch 2018 model as well. Now, I just wanted to go over basically and talk about some of the things that I've noticed right off the bat that really stand out to me. And the first one is something that I didn't fully realize when I made this order, and that's the 60 Hertz display. I completely didn't even think about how the iPad Pros did have that ProMotion display. And the thing I have to say is, if you're used to the iPad Pro 120 Hertz display, you probably will notice a difference as far as using it. Now, I don't think it's as bad as the iPad mini because that one did have the whole jelly scroll thing, and I did notice that, but on this one I haven't noticed any jelly scrolling, and overall the picture quality is really good on this. But I do have to say, I do notice that 60 Hertz versus 120 Hertz display. Now, the next thing I want to mention is going to be the speaker quality. Now, if you're a huge audio person, then you will probably notice the difference coming from a Pro to an iPad Air. one thing I also want to mention is if you're coming from a lower end iPad, and that's not to say that the iPad you have is worse, but if you're coming from a regular iPad, then you're probably going to notice an improvement. So, and if you're coming from an even older iPad Pro, like the iPad Pro 10.5 inch that has the home button, this will still be an upgrade for you, and pretty much everything else about this will be an upgrade minus that 60 Hertz display. Now, something I was really worried about was kind of using the Apple Pencil with this, because it did have a 60 Hertz display, and part of the reason why they introduced the ProMotion display in the iPad Pro back when they initially kind of came out, the iPad Pros and the Apple Pencil, was to make it more smooth when you're writing. Now, from my testing, even on the iPad mini, I didn't really notice anything that seemed like a lag. And for some people, if they have a really good eye and they can really tell the difference between these different refresh rates, you might notice the difference. But as far as just testing this out, I didn't really notice much, and I'm gonna be testing this a lot more and try to figure out if I can see any major differences coming from a Pro, and then report it back to you in the full comparison. This is just, again, my initial impressions as an iPad Pro user. Another thing that I didn't fully realize was that with the iPad Air series, what you're gonna get is a camera on the back, but they don't have a flash. Now for me, I didn't use this camera too much, and I only mainly used it when I was in school and scanning documents. I usually scan documents on my phone now, probably because of the better quality as far as the camera goes. But the reason why I used the camera to scan stuff in college was because I was always taking notes on my iPad anyways. And something that I was really looking forward to with this iPad Air was reading on it, because I felt like the iPad Pro 12.9 inch was just too big for me. And I'll dive into this a little bit deeper in that comparison video that's coming up as well. Now, as far as other noticeable differences, I have to say the weight of this has been really refreshing, because you got a display that's going to be quite a bit larger than your phone, but it's not like it's a burden to carry around. Now the iPad, the 12.9 inch iPad is not too bad and you get used to it, but with this, it is definitely just a lot more portable. And on top of that, my favorite color is blue, as you might be able to tell from my blue HomePod here. I always get the blue iPhones now, and this blue has been very nice to look at, and it's been a nice refreshing color. Last year when they released a more blue toned iPad Air, I was actually pretty excited until reviews and videos started coming out where it showed that it was a lot more muted, and it was basically like a space gray with a hint of blue. This is very much a blue color. You can definitely tell that this is blue, and it's very nice. It's not like the iPhones that they have. I think it's more like the back of the new iMacs that have come out, and that's very nice. And I do have this case right here, which I'll talk about in a future video as well. So if you want to see some accessory videos, you want to see some of the best accessories, as well as some other exciting content that is yet to come with this iPad Air, make sure you stay tuned. And again, if you comment down below any questions you have, I'll be answering them even before the videos go live on my Instagram and on my Twitter, so you can always interact with me on those channels as well. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention the Touch ID versus Face ID thing. So when it comes to Touch ID, I think it's very useful in a number of instances, and one of them is while wearing masks. Even though now Apple is introducing some features where it lets you wear a mask, it's still a lot nicer to use Touch ID than when using Face ID. Now, when it comes to using Face ID in other scenarios, one thing that I really love on the iPads is, and I also didn't notice this until the iPad Air, because I've been signing in on a lot of different accounts, and I'm surprised I didn't notice this as much when I set up the iPad mini back in November, just how much you have to constantly use your thumbprint. I think a lot of times it just kind of went over my head when I was using the iPad Pro, since it has Face ID, it just automatically registers and it's the end of that. Whereas the Touch ID, I physically have to move my limb, my finger over to the over to the power button to unlock and put in my password or whatnot. So that's going to wrap it up with what I have noticed so far, my initial impressions. Again, I do want to report back to you and get a more full comparison of this iPad Air compared to an older iPad. So if you really want to see that comparison and kind of help make the decision whether it's worth it for you to upgrade, or even if you're trying to figure out if you should stick with the Air versus spending the extra money and going with the Pro, make sure you stay tuned and make sure you leave questions down in the comments below. I would love to answer whatever questions you have and to kind of help you make your decision when you're purchasing these devices, because they do get expensive. And also don't forget to take advantage of the student discounts while the topic of price is up on the table. So if you want to see videos regarding the iPad Air, make sure you stay tuned, make sure you subscribe. I have accessory videos as well as some other exciting content and some stuff that I do have to announce, which is yet to come. So please stay tuned, interact in the comments, and also social media if you want answers sooner than my next video. So until next time, don't forget to take it easy with some tea,